welcome. we were laughing.
This is another, oh my gosh, last second to get everything together.
No, we had everything together, and then you just made me laugh, like right before I hit go to live stream, and then I just couldn't stop laughing after that. So, good morning. Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. Today's topic is going to be positive intelligence. I'm your host, the career coach with the most, Jason Hopper. With me today is our super cool Senior Director of Career and Financial Services.
Wow, I have a new title.
And my co-host, Miss Allison Harding. Allison.
Super cool.
Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career.
Thank you.
So today's topic, kind of an interesting one.
It is interesting.
We are, we are live, just so we know. Oh, people are popping in the chat. Hello, Sheila. Hey, Sharon. It's good to see you. So our mind can be our best friend, but also our worst enemy.
Definitely.
So positive intelligence. Allison, what is positive intelligence?
So it's called PQ, and it's positive intelligent quota. So it's like IQ, that type of a thing. And what happens is we have negative thoughts and we have positive thoughts. And in all actuality, the negative oftentimes win. They're stronger because they have a number of different ways to enter your head and your brain and the way you think. So having a positive intelligence, looking at things differently, sometimes you have to work at it. It's not something that comes easily, but it's something that's really important because there have been studies. I'm going to get into this right now. There have been studies shown that when you have positive intelligence, PQ, think positively, instead of more than 275,000 people, higher PQ leads to higher salaries and greater success in work, marriage, health, sociability, friendships, and creativity. Folks, that's your life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everything. Higher PQ workers take fewer sick days and are less likely to become burned out or quit because they're looking at the positive, and it's invigorating, and it allows your brain space to create new things to do at work. If you're given more responsibilities, how to build that into your life. Project teams with higher PQ managers perform 31% better on average when other factors are held equal. So that PQ, when your boss is positive, the team works better.
Yes.
It just totally does.
Yes.
And then the last one, higher PQ leads to enhanced immune system functioning, lower levels of stress-related hormones, lower blood pressure, less pain, fewer colds, better sleep, and less likelihood to have hypertension, diabetes, or stroke. And it's all in your head. It's not medicine. It's not a pill. It's not a prescription. It's in your head.
Right. Positive intelligence is really the way that your brain conducts itself in your best interest. Because one of the things that is important to recognize is that our brains self-sabotage us. And everything that you just mentioned right there, including stress, is our brains working against us. So PQ is the opposite of that, and making us more aware of those feelings and stopping. We'll talk about that here in just 1 second. So positive intelligence is actually coined by a neuroscientist by the name of Shirazad Chamine, who also Positive Intelligence Inc. It's positiveintelligence.com. You could go look that up. It's basically going to train your brain to handle challenges and negative emotions. And so the ultimate goal of PQ is to help you build mental resilience, self-awareness, and cultivate the positive mindset.
So I have a couple of kids, and when they were little, we would talk about being good and being bad. And I used to tell them they have an angel on each shoulder. You have a good angel and you have a bad angel. Okay? And the good angel says, oh, let's sit here nicely and eat our breakfast. And the bad angel says, let's spit our cereal on the floor. The good angel says, why would you do that? You're hungry and you like this cereal. And the bad angel says, because it's fun to spit and I want to see what everybody's going to look like when I do it. So this is that battle in your head between the good angel and the bad angel. Here, Shazad calls it sage, the good person, and saboteurs, the bad person. Same thing. It's in your head, and it's good fight. It's good fighting evil.
Right. So PQ goes and takes a three-pronged approach. The first is to treat the root level of the emotion, not the symptom. So when we'll talk about how to recognize that here in just a second. And the other is to build mental muscles that establish mental fitness. The third is to provide a common operating system for personal and professional development. Basically, kind of retrain your brain into a different mode of thinking. And so with clients, I talk with them about the switch in your head, because oftentimes, like if you go to interview, let's say, and clients sometimes they'll say, "Oh my God, I'm so nervous, Jason. I was just nervous," right? And I remind them that the feelings for being nervous and excitement are the same.
Are very similar.
Right? So if you can train your brain to realize not that, oh, I'm so nervous, but rather I'm excited about the opportunity, you'll come out a little bit ahead. Nervous is obviously like one of the a negative emotion.
It's a scary emotion. So, your mind is your best friend. Okay, everything's up there. There's different parts of the brain and the mind, and everything's up there. But it also is your worst enemy. Positive intelligence is the relative strength of these two modes of thought working in your head. Negative, positive, positive, negative. High positive intelligence means your mind act as your friend far more often than your enemy. So if you're in job search and something good doesn't happen, you immediately go to negative instead of saying, oh my gosh, I was so lucky to be able to get 3 interviews. They just had somebody that had more skill than I do. But now I know what to say and how to do it and the types of jobs to look for. So you can turn those negative thoughts into positive. And that's really important because the brain holds all that information. And what you want to do is to put those saboteurs, that negative, in the basement and make sure that the positive stays up front.
So Sharon Harris says that you look very nice today.
Thank you.
And she says, so agree. I go to work happy and I can handle anything that comes my way. And even if I have challenges, it's easier than being negative. Thanks, Jason. I thought that was a correlation between nervousness and excitement. Yes, it is. And she said, especially before giving a speech, that helps her out. So thanks, Sharon, for the comments. We appreciate that. So I mentioned a minute ago, I mentioned mental fitness, which is the measure of strength of your positive muscles versus your negative muscles. And you said that like PQ is really the amount of time it takes for your brain to process more positive thoughts versus the negative thoughts. And that's where they come up. And it's one of the things like it's kind of hard to measure.
It's really hard to measure. And plus, the negative are always there. It's not going away. It's your brain and you managing it. So I have arthritis in my knee. It just is there. I can't make it go away unless I have surgery. I'm not doing that at this point in my life because it doesn't affect me that much. So, but I went to an acupuncturist. Yeah. And he said to me, I can't cure it, but I can make it feel better. That's all I wanted. And that's what he did. But he was upfront. I cannot cure this. Having PQ, positive intelligence, is not a cure for negative thoughts. It's a cure for controlling those negative thoughts and putting them, again, in the basement away, because two parts of your brain are working. And your saboteurs, those negatives, can cause you stress, anxiety, self-doubt, frustration, regret, shame, guilt, and unhappiness. Saboteurs include all sorts of different things. That unhappiness, if you go into an interview, even if you say, "Oh, I'm hiding it, it comes right out."
Yeah.
You have to really, really work to control it and put it in the basement. Your positive, your sage, lives in a different region of the brain, and this handles challenges in a different way that produce positive emotions. So you have to manage those positive emotions more to get rid of the negative thoughts. So if you're curious, if you have empathy, if you're creative, draw, write. If you're calm and you like walking, go for a walk. Do things that can clear your head of those negatives and keep those positives where they should be.
Right. And so one of the things that helps with increasing your PQ is recognizing the negative emotions. What I got on the website was to view them as a cast of villains in your head.
They are villains.
Right?
They're bad guys.
And so, like, the main one is like the judge.
Okay.
The judge is often keeping you up in the middle of the night, reminding you of your past mistakes and how other people are going to view you in general. Now, the judge is the main bad guy, but he has got a whole bunch of grunts and lackeys working for him, including the avoider, avoiding confrontation and difficult tasks.
So when we talk about these are different negative elements that work through you. And it doesn't mean you have all 10 of them. What it means, I hope, what it means is that any one of these can strike at any time. And once you're cognizant of it, once you understand it, you can say, "Get away. No, I'm not going there. I'm staying positive. This is a good thing. This is what I'm going to do."
Yeah, if we right, because we could create the character, we can recognize it when it pops up, and then one of the things that we'll talk about here in a second is like how to get rid of those villains that are in your head. So we have the judge, we have the avoider, we have the controller.
So this is a guy who gives you anxiety. This is the person that says you can't do that job. Where good angel's saying, "Sure you can. I mean, you went to school, you've been doing it for 3 years," and the negative says you didn't like it when you did it, you can't do it. You're not going to do it. So again, you have to control those things, because the controller can then control you. And that's when you sit in front of the TV all day and eat bonbons.
You have to remember that you can only control your actions, how you feel, and your emotions, and like the process for change, right? Like that's oftentimes I'll have clients that are focused more on the outcome than the actual process.
And you bring up a really good point. What's the outcome?
The outcome?
Yeah. What's the goal?
Well,
usually
to get a job.
To get a job. Okay, so your outcome is, I need to get a job, I need to pay my bills, I need to continue working, I need to keep my skills up. These are all things that could sabotage you, but instead you can turn that around and say, I made X number of dollars, I know what my budget is, I hope to continue making that or more, but if not, what can I live on and feel good about? And that's where people, in all honesty, like our financial coaches, can come in and say, "Listen, you've been making $80,000. You have been, we hope you can continue to do that, but you can live really well on $70,000 and get a really good job. We'll still look for something for 80 or 90 or whatever the number is. It could be 40,000, and maybe you can live well on 47,000, but we really want to get you something at 45. The number doesn't matter. What matters is what you are offered is a positive to you, not sabotaging you. Oh, I can't take that. I made a lot more than that before. I'm not going to do that.
And if you need help with your budgeting and spending plan, we can get you hooked up with one of our fantastic financial coaches. Just call us at 972-437-9950, extension 379. Leave a message, and somebody from the team will get back to you in 24 hours.
That was our first commercial.
There we go.
Does all that? I hope this all makes sense to everyone. I don't know if you're writing in the chat, but that positive and negative is a really important way for you to look at yourself and work better with yourself.
Right. Yeah. So, I'll have everybody, well, not everybody, but as clients and job seekers that go through the process and they're doing the things that they are supposed to be doing or trying to do, are applying to jobs, and then they get all worried and concerned about when something is going to happen. I don't know when the recruiter's going to call, or even if they're going to call. Same thing, you go to the interview, you follow up, right? But what happens next? When we start to worry about getting into things that we can't control, we start to ruminate, and it's harder to continue your PQ because now your brain is is working against you instead of working for you.
Exactly.
And you mentioned it a minute ago, Allison, we're talking about instead of getting into that point where we start to beat ourselves up because we didn't get the job, or I can't do this, or I didn't have the skill, or I need this much money. Instead of looking at the positive aspect that, okay, so realistically, job postings are getting, 100, 150 people applying to them.
Mm-hmm.
The recruiter's not going to call 150 people. You were probably 1 in 8 or 7 that got called.
That's a positive.
That's a huge positive.
Even if you don't get the job, it's a positive because what it's saying is your resume is right. Your resume is on target for what you're looking for, and you got a call or 2 or 3.
Yes. And then you get to the interview part, but you didn't get the interview, but you at least got to the final round of that's a win. It's important to celebrate the wins versus just creating that self-doubt and you're not as good as you can be.
So we have a client. We've had her for a year. She came to us a year ago and said, I have 3 kids. I'm divorced, single mom, 2 teens and a younger child. And I need a better job. I need to make more money. And she didn't have any experience in what we were looking at. But we changed her resume because of what she had been doing to include the things that she wanted to be able to do because she was doing them but never realized it.
Right.
And so she had all these positive traits, but she never saw them. That saboteur was working all the time. I've never done it. And so we changed the resume, and I sat and interviewed her and said, have you ever done that? Well, yeah, I do it every day with the people I work with and whatever. Anyways, she ended up getting a good job, and she was just named Employee of the Year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And she loves her job. She loves it. And so what I'm trying to say is you have to create that positive. Nobody's going to do it for you because it's about you. So if I look at Jason, I can give him a compliment and mean every word of it. I think you are so good at coming up with concepts for using on this podcast. And he's going to take that and go back and ruminate it and come back and say, thank you. I appreciate that because he's thought about it. He didn't let negative come in and say, well, you're not good at anything else. You might as well be good at that.
I'm damn good at this. I have no. By the way, you know how I come up with topics? By the way,
you work with someone who gives you a lot of good ideas.
I do, and her name is Allison Harding. Allison,
But he does the research.
Allison tells me what the topic's going to be.
No, we talk about it.
That's why we're a good partnership. I've created it. You could guys go look on the JFS homepage on LinkedIn. And if you are not following JFS Dallas on LinkedIn, you need to be. Go over there to LinkedIn, give us a follow. You have all the information, everything's going on. But I have the events created all the way through March 5th.
Nice.
Yeah. And most of the talking points done. So.
And that's a positive.
That's a positive, of course it is.
So what I'm saying is you really have to create that positive for you and look at all those 10 different saboteurs. And we talked about 3 of them. You want to start?
Yeah.
Anyways, and manage them, control them.
So I think it's important. The reason that we're going over this bit of the villains and your cast of characters is because I think it's important to recognize the behavior, right? And so that way we can kind of cut it off. That's the whole point of PQ, is once we recognize the villain, we then name it, which it helps increase the PQ, and then cut it off, right? So one of them is the pleaser. You try to gain acceptance by helping or flattering others, and you lose sight of your own needs and becomes resentful as the result.
So sometimes people don't even know they're doing it. It just flows out of their mouth. And then as the receiving person, it's like, really? So the pleaser really needs to think about what they're going to say positively to that other person and mean it.
Yeah.
That's the key word. So being able to mean it means that you have to know what's going on in your head. And if it really is gosh, you look great in that shirt today. Is that new? Great. Or if he's wearing a JFS shirt like he wears often, which we are supposed to, and I say, oh, you look great in that shirt. I wear it, once a week. What are you talking about?
This shirt is fairly new, though.
I like that one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not the, Sharon, Allison's not the only one looking good today. Okay? I'm looking pretty.
We compliment each other in our colors.
We didn't plan that either.
No.
So another villain, restless. It's constant search for greater excitement and the need for busyness. You're rarely content in any current situation. That's like continuing to just go and not be at peace in the moment.
So a lot of people sit down at their computers at 8 o'clock in the morning and sit there and look for jobs till 5 o'clock at night. Don't do it.
That's not going to get you a job.
It's not going, and that's where restless. Your saboteur comes in and says, oh, it's all the same stuff. He's right, it is. You're never going to find a job. And positive is saying, why don't you get up and take a walk around the block? Why don't you make a sandwich? Why don't you get a glass of water and just sit down and read something positive? And negative is saying, no, you have to sit here for 8 hours and you're still not going to find anything because you're not that good. So you have to control that restlessness.
That's it's interesting because we come in and we're at work 8 hours a day, right? People lose their jobs or they're on the job search and they think, okay, well, I should be working 8 hours a day at trying to find a job.
Don't do it.
How much time should we spend looking for a job, Allison?
So I don't know if there's an exact time, but I would spend a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours later in the evening and do something else. Go to networking groups, go to webinars or seminars, go meet somebody for lunch. And if lunch is too expensive, which it is right now, invite them over for a cup of coffee, just to talk. Go for a walk, meet your neighbors, volunteer.
Volunteer is a big one.
It is a big one, and I've told many people I got my job here because I was a volunteer, and that was over 15 years ago. This is my 16th year. So, you've got to do things that are going to be positive and help you. If I sat even here, if I sat in front of my computer for 8 hours here, I would not go home a nice person. You just can't do it. And so I know you're unemployed. I know you're scared. I know you're worried, but you'll be more positive if you do a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours in the evening.
I think that's absolutely correct. It also will keep you from burning out.
And last week, we had Sally here, who is in our behavioral health, and gave a fabulous overview of the brain when you're unemployed. And there's parts of the brain that just go to the negative, to the saboteurs, and become depressed and unhappy. And you don't finish projects, and you start looking into this company, you get bored. Those are the saboteurs. Those are the things that are going to hurt you. And you have to go to the positive.
Stephen says any movement forward is a move forward, and you should feel good about it.
Absolutely. What a nice way to say it.
Including that first interview and thinking about all those that could have done better, you'd not be advancing had you not done it. And also, he said doom scrolling. Yes, yeah, sitting there. And also, he said exercise, skill development, networking. Never had a loose schedule is re-energizing, and unemployment alone does not do that. That is correct.
Absolutely. So hyperachiever, performance needs validating in a positive way. Need continues at last achievement passes. So once your last achievement passes, you have a tendency to go into a downward spiral. So I might say to Jason, I have this project for you. It's a big project. And he's great. I'd love to do it. He does it. And when it's over, he goes like this. You can't do that. What you have to say is, what can I do next?
Or even how can we improve the project? Because it's a great example. I was like, it would be super cool is if we had like a practice interview program. You're like, great, go do that. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And that's why I had to figure out how to manage the project. And now it's been going for quite some time. And but we're still working on improving the process, because as we've gone along, we've realized that some things we don't.
You need to tweak it all the time.
That's right. And once I figure out the logistics, and I'm almost there, we're going to do like an in-person. Right? We're going to have people come into the building and do face-to-face instead of virtual.
Right now it's all virtual.
It's all virtual right now. Also, too, it is happening Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
I've got 2 spots left at 2 o'clock Central. If you are interested, let me know. Email me at the letter J, Hopper, HOPPER, at jfsdallas.org. Put practice interview in the subject line, and I got 2 o'clock.
And all the people who are working with you virtually are professionals, so they're good. They're going to give you good advice. And then you can talk it over with your coach and say, hey, I learned this, and I did this, and I tried this. And you can do it more than once. You can do it next week and again in 2 weeks. You have to fine-tune yourself all the time. We do Microsoft Office classes. Phil does them. And some people take them 3 and 4 times because there's so much information that they don't get it all. So don't hesitate if you haven't gotten everything or you don't feel just right. Do it again. Positive thought says the sage. Try it again. You'll learn more. You'll be ready for that next interview.
That's right. The final villain is the victim. It uses emotion and temperament to get attention and affection and extreme focus on internal feelings, especially the painful ones.
This is what kids use all the time, is the victim. They cry, they have a tantrum when they've been caught doing something, or they're not getting enough attention. So they cry and they have a tantrum, all sorts of different things. Adults do it too.
Yeah. Well, it's that victim mentality, like, this happened to me and it was so bad and I need you to feel bad for me because, and it's like, all right, get over that. So how to strengthen your PQ. We talked about this a little bit, but mostly you want to intercept your saboteurs. This is when you name them so you realize, you're being the victim right now. Let's stop. And when we think about how we can turn the negative into more of a positive and realize that Is this, and this is where your sage comes in, because, you know, the stories that we tell ourselves determine really how we feel in the outcome. So if the sage is looking at things at a different angle and more of a positive, like, for example, what is the thing that's actually true in the story versus what we've made up in the story? Because if we could focus on that, and Sally talked about it a little bit last week with the think method, which is this true? And then, like, what is going to be the positive outcome of that? So I think that once we recognize the saboteur and tell it to go away, right, and start to get a higher PQ, and again, that's the amount of time that we spend with our brains being positive for us rather than the negative, we come out on the other end a lot happier.
Yeah, and that happiness feeds into that PQ, that quotient that is so really important. And to power your sage, you need to explore new things. You need to empathize, feel what other things people are feelings or think. Be innovative. Make changes. Make positive changes. Navigate the negative. Learn how to turn left when the negative is turning right. And activate those responses. Be sure that you can verbalize things and verbalize it to yourself. Self-talk in PQ is really important. And I'm not saying you should walk down the street talking to yourself, but I am saying.
Why not? I mean, like, you know what? Back in the day, if we just saw somebody walking around and talking, and there was nobody there, you'd like, I think that person that's probably got a problem. But nowadays, it's not only is it a common thing, because like you got your AirPods in, it's like you're just on the phone talking to somebody.
I know.
Right? But that's correct. I think that self-talk is definitely an important part of it, but you need to make sure that it's going to be positive self-talk. I think that creating that positivity and that positive environment is one of the things that is key to being successful, especially if you're on the job search, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are plenty of people willing to tell you what you're doing wrong and that, this is the way that you should be doing it.
And what you can do better, and I did it this way, and it worked.
Right. And then we went over all the villains, like, mostly that part's the judge part. Well, maybe I'm not right, or maybe I'm not doing this correctly, or maybe I'm not good enough, right? And so then we have, again, problems that start to develop. This is like, I know, like, guys, this is like a big topic because we're talking about brain stuff and how to switch your mode of thinking, but it so makes the difference. Like, every day before I walk in, I have some hype music that I listen to, and I also
don't ask what it is. You do not want to know.
They're. So, and then, I also look in the rearview mirror at me and look at my eyeballs and say, it's going to be a great day today. And most of the time, I'm correct. So I come in positive before I start.
I think many of us do that. I don't do it the same way Jason does, but I also always feel good when I'm organized in the morning. And I look at my to-do list because I'm very disorganized. I know that about myself. And so I know what I have to do to stay on track and organized. And it's really important that I follow that list, because if I don't, then my saboteurs walk right in.
Yeah.
And say things like, you're procrastinating. You can't do this job. You shouldn't have tried to start this project. It's not going to, that's my saboteurs. And if I don't stay organized, they literally walk right in. Whereas my sage will say, you know what, calm down, look at your list, If you want today, start with the low-hanging fruit, grab it, do it, and then you'll be able to work through the list. So, on other days, we'll say start with the hard one. You know you have to face it. Just go ahead and do it. And don't worry about, what the consequences are if you don't complete the list. Get the hard one done because it's important. So there's different things that you can do. Otherwise, my saboteurs really do. They walk right in.
But Sharon Harris says you need to do it with affirmations. Best to repeat them. Thank you for sure, Sharon. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know if you guys remember Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me.
I love that, but those are affirmations, and you have to say them to yourself too. You know what? I've been in HR for 20 years. I'm really good at it. I didn't get that job. Somebody else did. They had a different skill, but I am going to get the job I want, or admin, or scientist, or technology, whatever it is. So, the saboteur is the act of destroying and being the underlying negative, whereas the sage helps you build up to your highest potential if you let it.
Yeah.
Let the sage in. It's really, really important.
Yeah, once you start approaching things with empathy and curiosity and focus, things become a lot better.
Yeah.
So, Allison, we're about at time, so that went very fast. Fun question for the day.
Uh-oh.
Would you rather have no hair or hair all over your body?
Oh my gosh. You're coming up with really strange ones. I think I'd rather have no hair because I can always go get a wig. And I can always go get a wig.
There you go.
What about you?
I would rather have no hair too.
Bald men are in. Bald women are in. Bald people are in.
It's less to worry about.
Or you could get a little.
Although,
you do have a lot of hair.
Looks good today. All right, so next week's topic is how setting goals can lead to a happier life. Till then, have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.